Okay, yep, so basically to answer your question, how do you know, right, 1 to 2 players is an advantage or a disadvantage, and then 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. How do you know where the line is, right? So 2 is the middleman, right? It's stuck there in the middle because there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into whether or not you've won or lost the fight besides just, how many people you have. So that's why 2 is in the middle. How you can differentiate between just an advantage in a one fight or a disadvantage in a lost fight is all those different things. So different things that go into that is which team has more health, which team has better positioning, which team has closer spawns, which team has more ultimates, which team is using more ultimates, which team has more abilities, right? There's a bunch of different things that go into that, and you want to just kind of analyze them. So for example, let's come up with some scenarios, right? If you are down 2 people, so it is a 6v4, yet their entire team is 1 HP, well, that's a situation where maybe you can still win that because you can get a bunch of picks really soon and then that might flip it around, right? Or let's say you're down 2 people, but you're currently using a Grav Dragon or a Nanoblade, or you're down 2 people and you have close spawns like on a 2CP map, right? But alternatively, if you're down 2 people and you have no additional advantage, like you're down 2 people and we're just even on everything else, then that means that that's probably a lost fight, right? Because we have no other way to win it.
Okay.
Okay, that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yep. All
That's a
right.
good answer.
So, any other questions before we started?
Let me just check what I wrote on last time.
All right.
There should not be any.
Okay. Well, then we can just go ahead and get started here. Then I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. Little early of a dynamite, right? Just they have to take a couple seconds to walk out of spawn. All right. So already just holding this close is a little bit risky. Just because it's really I guess we're just I'm trying to think of if we even get into this. So just real quick, it's it's not something we have to go super in depth on. This is usually something that's reserved for like tank players that I talk about with. But in general, this is a choke point. So you've probably heard that term before, right? This is a choke. But what that means is that when you have to walk through this, everyone is funneled. So this little, these 2 little, I guess I'd probably say this is one big choke, but then also 2 tinier chokes, like right through it, because you have to walk through either left side or right side. And if you're walking through left side or right side, then that means that you're going through this tiny little funnel, and it makes it super easy to shoot into it and kill people, right? Now, when we hold past it, then that means we don't get any of the value, right? It means that, instead of them having to walk through it, we in fact have to walk backwards through it, which actually puts us at a disadvantage. When we hold inside of it, basically same exact thing. When we hold right on the exact opposite side of it, right, like right what we're doing right here, then that's going to mean, again, they don't have to, like, why do they need to walk past the choke to get a kill? Like, look at these guys, they got a kill like on our Zarya before they even got past the choke point, right? They can just shoot from here and they never have to walk through it, if we're standing there, right? So that means that probably if we're standing up here, just sitting here, they have no reason to go through that tiny little funnel, and we want them to go through that tiny little funnel. So alternatively, we probably don't want to stand up there, and the better place to stand would be somewhere back, probably on this high ground would be a really good spot to be. If they push in further, then we can back up even further, but I'd probably say this would be the best place for you to begin, because then that means that they're going to want to walk through this place. Now, you might not have control over where your Reinhardt's holding and your Zarya is holding, but you do have control over where we are, and we probably shouldn't be that close, because it's also a really easy way to get you killed when as Ashe is a mid to long range character, we don't need to be that close to enemies, because this is pretty close and we have a decent amount of range on our kit, right? Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so you just quickly checking real quick. So last time we just went over a little bit of Genji, Tracer, and McCree. It looks like it was kind of split between the 3, so we haven't gone over Ashe at all yet. All right.
No, I recently started learning Ashe because I got asked by my team to start learning her a bit more.
Okay.
So I've been focusing on that a little bit. And I've been also trying to improve my crosshair placement since last time.
All right.
And not just keep it on the body.
Okay, so you know, kind of same, noticing some of the same stuff as last time. So first off, did last time we talked about kind of like looking down and then flicking up, um, like up to their, like looking at their bodies and then kind of flicking up to their heads every time we were trying to go for shots. Is that something we talked about last time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, to be honest, like sometimes, like, you know, especially when it's been a while, like I don't necessarily remember every single thing that we've gone over. So some, you know, for example, yeah, it was like a week ago that we went over that stuff. So you know that this is just something that like I'm noticing again, is that we're doing that a little bit. Like I'm trying to find a situation where we did that. Like, but like right there, you can see it where we're like kind of looking down and we do a flick up, looking down to a flick up, right? I guess we can lower it down like kind of. Here we don't do it as much, and then we're gonna do it a little bit more when we come and shoot at the other guys here. So we're gonna reload a little bit. Here we're gonna notice that we're going to do it a little bit more again. I think. Right. So look down, flick up, look down, go up a little bit, go down. Okay. Now we're just holding it down. And then again, noticing just at our current level that we're not aiming at heads, like so, like you can see where you are in comparison to Hanzo and the Ana. Now Ana would be head level because she's kind of looks like she's hunched over currently, but we want to make sure we're just aiming up a little bit more. Right. So just kind of so far those two things look like they are, you know, repeating a little bit. We want to make sure we're getting like used to that as, or again, right, still trying to continue in on those notes that we talked about last time.
Yeah.
All right. So first off here, we don't actually detonate the dynamite when we throw it at the Mercy, whereas that probably would have been a good idea. So we toss it at Mercy, and then instead of detonating it, which would, you know, hit her with the dynamite and then would cause her to start burning, we decide to just shoot at her normally, which means that the dynamite doesn't actually do anything. So we probably want to make sure we're, you know, actually detonating the dynamite so that it actually gets its value. Now it does end up, I think it does end up hitting her just because she flies past it, and then that was pretty much it.
They are getting on my. Hello.
Now, just for reference, now I know your team's trying to get you to practice Ashe, though. If you're playing, you know, let's say you get used to Ashe, or you know, you get kind of a lot better with it, or whatever, and you're now kind of back to swapping characters whenever, you know, in situations where they're better or, you know, good in those situations. Here currently, McCree would probably just be a better pick, especially just because they're on dive characters, so Tracer and Monkey, which would make it McCree a better character to play because he has his flashbang, which is going to you know, allow you to stun them as they come in, and then he also has a little bit of extra health, which is going to give him additional survivability as well. So that's just something to watch out for. So it's just a situation where maybe we could be on a different character, though. Again, if you're just practicing, then there's no issue with that. Okay. Exact same concept here. Now, like again, we don't really have control over it. If our whole team is holding here, like to hold here, like if they're making a bad decision, make the bad decision with them and hold up with them. But you know, we could probably like sit top left is probably a place that we could be, if they all are trying to hold here. But just in general, know that this isn't the best spot to be holding, even if you don't have much control over that. Oh. Um, I'm noticing us holding on the ground a lot. We're not typically using high grounds too much. Like we kind of, like on the first point, we were on this high ground for about like, you know, 10 seconds, and then we dropped, and then we never got a high ground again. And then here we were on this high ground for like 10 seconds, and then we dropped, and then we're not taking high ground again. Want to make sure we're taking high grounds much more often. We talked about high ground positioning last time, I would assume, right?
Most likely, yeah.
Most likely, yeah. So just as a quick reminder, right, all high ground's pretty great for us, right? High ground, you know, gives us survivability where, you know, most characters can't get up to us instantaneously, and it also gives us, you know, it all acts as natural cover, so they can see us. Now they can't see us when we back away from the ledge, and then on top of that, it gives us a ton of visibility. So, you know, high grounds, we just want to make sure we're on them more often, because here we're just kind of sitting on the floor.
Time to change things up. Dein Schutzengel ist da. Do something.
Okay, a nice bob placement. I like that placement. Oh, very nice.
Fire at will. I'm on fire.
Right here, I was just fucking confused about that grab.
Here it comes.
Allow me to repair the damage.
Just like, okay. Because I was doing with the story and thought like, I'm not used to that.
Because you what you say?
I do it with the story and I was like,
Oh.
well, I'm not used to that grab.
Okay, once again, I'd like to see us using our Coach Gun just to take high grounds more often. Like here, there's no reason why we shouldn't be using Coach Gun to, for example, just get up here real quick, right? We just like are kind of sitting on the floor when it's probably unnecessary that we do so when we already discussed why high ground's so great for us. So just want to make sure you're looking to use that to travel. Reload management on Ashe, basically we should be, because she has such a unique reload, we basically are just going to be reloading anytime we get an opportunity. So like, you get half of a second, it's even faster than any other reload, right? If you're just doing one bullet at a time. So like if you have half a second where you're not doing anything, that's a time where we could just be reloading one single bullet or 2 bullets or 3 bullets. It doesn't have to be all 12 at once when we're reloading. And certainly that's going to allow you to, like if you're not doing all 12 at once, that's going to allow you to stay in the fight and continue to shoot more often. So just make sure we're reloading anytime we just aren't shooting at anything or we can't see anything or we're not doing anything. That way we actually have all our ammo for when we can shoot at stuff and do things. Okay. So rewatch that for real quick. So we were on him, and then we kind of, oh, I think we got hit by the thing there. So yeah, wow. For some reason, it looks different in the slow mo than when we were watching in fast motion. Okay. Yeah, we just end up whiffing those shots. Okay, it was that thing like made it. Our screen looks really weird when it hit us.
Yeah. I would have stayed on high ground there, I think.
Mm.
I don't know, did I miss the dynamite there or did
It looks like something on the way.
body block it?
Yeah, it looks like something that someone body blocked it here. So the thing I'm noticing is that we just don't hear the tracer, so we want to make sure that we're listening for footsteps intentionally. Team composition dictates play style, so when they are on a different team composition, we want to make sure that we are adjusting our play style accordingly. For example, when they're on a tracer and a monkey, that is much different than when they are, for example, like on a double sniper, right? When they are on a tracer, right? Tracer is going to be coming from the left, coming from the right, coming from behind us, right? So we have to be careful. We have to be listening and watching our flank angles and paying extra close attention to them. Whereas if they're on Hanzo Widowmaker, okay, well our Hanzo Widowmaker going to be coming from the left and the right and from behind very often. Probably not nearly as often, and then that means that we don't need to pay attention to them as much. And when we're going up against a Hanzo Widowmaker, now we might need to be a little bit more careful with our positioning in terms of cover usage, right? We might need to make sure we're purposefully putting ourselves near cover a lot more so we don't get headshot by the Widowmaker, right? So we just play differently when we're up against different characters. We want to make sure here we're intentionally listening and watching for the tracer so she doesn't jump on top of us and get a kill like she does here, because this is easily preventable if we're listening, because we heard her a good, or she was hearable a good 2-3 seconds before she arrived, right? So we just want to make sure that we are paying attention, listening, watching, right? And then therefore able to escape her.
Let's clean up this mess.
Wait. From last time, I actually did unbind the fucking spray key.
Oh, okay. Alright, well that's good. That's one step up. Alright, so notice that in these fights, we're dying first a lot. So, particularly on the second point, we just died first twice in a row, and then both times or like the first time it nearly lost you, but then we kind of like lost us the fight, and then we just barely brought it back, and then this time, we lost the fight just because we died first. So we want to make sure we're looking to stay alive, because remembering that when you're dying first, that's worse than when we're dying last. Just because you're putting your big team at a big disadvantage, and we want to make sure we're looking to stay alive, right? So that we're just not putting our team at that disadvantage, right? So that means, again, like, you know, all the things we talked about a lot before, to just pay attention more. All right. Just now we
Here I'm
swapped over to
actually playing
Genji.
Genji.
All right. Now, just to confirm, because sometimes I do this when people are playing a bunch of different characters. To confirm here, you're wanting to review the Genji here, right? You're not wanting to skip ahead to a different area or go over a different replay, right?
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to. I want to see it again, or like at least like second point. Because first point I just kind of rolled this Genji, but second point I got more problem.
All right. Sounds good.
So we can just skip ahead to second point, I guess.
Okay, skip ahead to the second point, you said. All right. So you said, so what you guys roll? You said you guys rolled it on first plane, or they rolled you?
And I didn't say we rolled them. I said I kind of did, like
Oh,
personally.
okay, okay.
But I didn't do a lot of like misplays all the
Okay.
time.
I am taking the objective. Join me.
Okay, that's the range in which you might want to start using left clicks, right? Because that's just going to be a lot more accurate, especially on a tiny little skinny character like Tracer, where at this range, if you hit her, only like, you know, one single shuriken's going to land. Now, she is 1 HP, but your left click's just going to be much more accurate at that range, because you can intentionally place, you know, 3 of them instead of just intentionally placing 1 of them. Because if we're just, you know, throwing shurikens in like this, only 1 of those are aimed, right? The main one. Whereas, you know, if we're throwing them with left clicks, then we can kind of like jiggle them around a little bit, kind of aim it at where we know she's gonna go. So it just might be a little bit more accurate if you're going for your left clicks over your right click there. Dash to catch up with her, right? You know, no, don't feel afraid to use your. Oh snap! Wait, dash is on 2 seconds. We have it. No, we have it now. All right. We see her now. We could dash through her, or when she just dashes over there, she's 1 HP, right? You don't have to be afraid of anything. We're gonna get that dash reset once we get the kill, so pay attention to how much health she has. Just, you know, dash in after her, and that's an easy kill we can go for. All right. Alright, so now Anna's, and then that means that now we don't have to worry, if we got the kill on her, then we didn't have to worry about taxing Anna and worrying about her dying. Just, you know, would be a lot easier for a setup. Alright, and then that means that, you know, if we had taken her out, McCree doesn't die, right? So we just want to make sure we're chasing that. Okay, again, pay attention to health bars, I believe, here. So Mercy, we see her, and she is, you know, pretty low. First off, one other thing before we mention this, but like, make sure that when we are reloading, we're not kind of walking out in the open. So for example, here, before we go on the Mercy, reload and just put yourself around the corner here so they can't see us. And then when we're going for the Mercy, then we can walk forwards, right? But that way, we're not just getting headshot domed when we're turning this corner reloading. We also have all our ammo here, if you look at the bottom right, and we could have just right-click dash real quick or left-click dash at the Mercy, but we're kind of delayed with it a tiny little bit there. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. The big one is just that we stepped out in the open, right? We weren't using cover properly, remembering that good positioning is usage of cover, bad positioning is the absence of cover. All right. Now, definitely, I think it's looking much better than last time, especially now that I'm remembering, you know, that you're the spray dude. Right. I think crosshair placement is definitely looking like we're not just staring at the floor all the time, but it still does need a little bit of work. Like if you like look at these like how we're aiming, like we're just kind of really low to the ground with it. Like while we're aiming at these guys, it just means we're hitting out body shots. Make sure we're not walking out of spawn when we don't have teammates alive, because that's going to result in our death, which does happen here, right? Whereas we could probably just stayed alive pretty easily, right, if we just waited for our team. So again, awareness and paying attention to where our team is at. It's looking like a lot of stuff is coming down to awareness and survivability at the moment, not necessarily just our ability to awareness, positioning, survivability, right, all that jazz, right? Just, it's not necessarily that you're bad at, you know, shooting things and killing things and using your abilities. It's just that we've been dead a lot, and we've been not paying attention, and we've been, you know, being out of position, and then all of that's feeding into us not being able to kill things as efficiently.
Group up with me.
I will not waste this chance.
I cast this
Bad
forth.
guys, heads up.
Okay, we're at, I guess, one moment. Very nice. All right, we're at 10 minutes 20 seconds. Just remember that number if you can. Why don't we just talk about Genji's left click versus right click real quick? Now, I don't think we did talk about that last time, but here it seems like we're messing that up a little bit more than I noticed last time. But in any case, when to left click versus right click on Genji, I don't believe we talked about this last time because I don't see that in the notes. Did we talk about that last time?
I don't think so.
You
No,
don't think
I
so?
think we
Okay.
only went over Kree and Tracer about that.
All right, sounds good. So when to left click versus right click, right? I'm noticing a lot of right clicks when we're probably a little bit too far for them. So when it comes to your right click, you kind of have a range in which like you're only hitting one of them, right? Like when we're so far back away, right? You see how you have a spread on it, and now only one shuriken is hitting them, right? That means that at that range, we're going to be doing a lot better if we're just doing, left clicks, because then we can hit all three shurikens rather than just one shuriken. Now, where we start to use our left click less, right, and we use our right click more, is within that range where we're hitting more shurikens with our right click. So at this range, you see that if we're hitting headshots, we're still only hitting one, right? And if we're going for body shots, now we're hitting two, maybe, but still maybe only one from this distance. So at this distance, we still might not be even using our right click, right? We still might be using our left click from a 10-meter distance on someone, right? So then once we get up a little bit closer, we inch in. Now even if we're aiming headshots, now if we are aiming at headshots, we're still only hitting one single shuriken. We aim down, now we're hitting all three, right? So this is within the distance now where we probably anything within this should be a right click, right? Kind of like 7-ish meters. Or 8, or this looks like 8-ish meters, roughly this distance, and is where we're going to start using our right click all the time over our left click. Now, there are some exceptions to this, right? Now, let's say a tank, for example. Tanks, bigger hitboxes, right? On a tank, you're going to be using your right click from a further distance because they can soak up a lot more of the shurikens, right? So on a tank, you might be more so like back to here and using a right click on them just because their head hitboxes and their body hitboxes are bigger, and therefore you can, hit them a little bit easier. Right now, the other time you can use right click further away is when it's on a big crowd of people or on a shield. So let's say like they have a Reinhardt shield there, right? Or any other shield, right? Since it's so large, you could probably use your right click from like back here, and it's you can use your right click from anywhere, and it be fine because now you're firing into shields, which is such a big thing that you just want the faster fire rate, right? Or if it's a big clump of people, that's the other exception as well. When it's a big clump of people right there, then we can fire in right clicks because a shuriken's gonna be hitting stuff no matter what, right? And if we're just spamming the shots in there, right? We can just spam, just hold down right click, spam some right clicks in there if it's just a big clump of people. But so far, I'm noticing a lot of right clicks kind of from like this-ish distance, like on single targets, and it just means that we're missing a lot of shurikens. So you just probably want to be left clicking more from that distance. Sorry. And then even if you're at that distance and you can even do left click dashes too when you're going for dashes. So we can do that rather than a right click into it, because that again will be more accurate with it and is going to hit you more when we're dashing in than if we try to do a right click dash, because if we just do a right click dash from this distance, then we're only going to be hitting one single shuriken, and you can see like how much the health they have still after the dash is done, versus if we do a left click dash, it's going to look something like this where we'd go left click dash and now they're dead, right? Big difference. So we just want to make sure we're using those respective ranges, and that's going to equal more damage and more kills and whatnot. Okay, so I believe we were like 10 minutes in.
10 minutes 20.
Thank you. Alright. So you can see like, just for example, this, after we kill the monkey, right, just as a quick, tiny little one, right-clicking in from there, hit one single shuriken, right? It's just a very ineffective range to be using your right-click. Good job using cover there.
I just want to check, wasn't my right click action already in motion when I aimed towards him, or did I start it? Because I think it was just a following motion from like me just holding it during the Winston.
I don't think so, because it looks like we intentionally aimed it at them. I mean, we were doing it like before too, right? Like we were holding on the monkey and it's dead, and then we turned and then paused and then
Okay.
right click, right?
Yeah.
And then there again, like where we're at a pretty far distance, we kind of do a right click dash. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So here we just kind of get domed by the Hanzo. Make sure we're paying attention to the Hanzo, and in the situation, maybe if we see Hanzo's like charging up an arrow at us, we can add in a deflect, or we could dash at the Hanzo as an option here. And then besides that, if we use like either one of those, that could potentially save us. But then besides that, we just get kind of domed really fast and melted. So that one, wasn't as much we could have done, but the big thing was just paying attention to the Hanzo. So that's coming down to a lot of our deaths. Is just or a lot of things in general, is that we're just not being aware of our surroundings, or we're not paying attention to what's going on, and then therefore we die. So if we see Hanzo's aiming straight at us, then that's a situation where maybe we can add in where we can deflect, right, and then that way it's just we're not taking damage, right, and we can get around the corner or something like that. So real quick, why don't we go over strengths and weaknesses of what we're looking at? So ability usage, honestly, not too shabby. I don't feel like Coach Gun we talked about. I just want to see you using it to get it to high ground more often. Dynamite, not a ton to talk about. Deflect, just make sure we're using it to keep ourselves alive. Dash, make sure we're right clicking or sorry, we're left clicking when we're further away from people. But besides that, there's not a ton. So right now we're just probably going to put that at a low to medium priority. Ultimate usage, I saw one single Bob so far, so we're gonna have to take more of a look at that. But Bob usage looked like fine. We used it at at a good timing, and we put him in a good spot. So no issues with the Bob so far. So we'll just put a pause on that for now, but because I haven't seen any any ults yet. Then number 3 here, what are we working on with next? Mechanics. We talked about aiming, making sure we're keeping up crosshair placement, aiming head level. We're looking a lot better with it, but we still want to make sure we're aiming up a little bit more often because we are still looking down. Making sure that we're not doing kind of random flicks like looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up, but instead we're keeping it steady at the head, so that we're not messing up our aim. On ourselves. Then besides that, we talked about when to use your left click versus right click shuriken. And then I think that is it with our mechanics. So mechanics so far looking like a medium, maybe a medium high category to work on. Probably say medium for now. And then moving on, we're looking at our positioning. Our positioning, want to make sure we're using cover usage, right? Want to, good positioning is usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Want to make sure we're taking high grounds. We're just sitting on the low grounds a lot of the time. When we had a high grounds, it was very easy options. So want to make sure we're taking those. And then on top of that, let's see, what else is on top of that? I think that those are actually the main ones. And then that probably puts it at like a medium again. And then that's got us killed a couple times just because we haven't been respecting cover usage, or haven't been taking high grounds, right? And then finally we're at awareness, and then awareness I'll probably say is like the biggest one so far. And we've had a lot of different things, tiny little things and big things that add up into it. So things like not paying attention to Hanzo, not listening for Tracer, not paying attention to team compositions and changing our playstyle accordingly. Not paying attention to when your team's dead in spawn and you walk out on your own, right? Not paying attention to when Tracer's not paying attention to health bars and when Tracer's 1 HP so we can dash after her and kill her. Let's see, what are some other ones? I think those were just a bunch of them right off the bat. There's probably a couple others as well, mixed in there that I'm just not remembering specifically. But awareness so far has just been a lot of everything, and it's gotten us killed a lot. That's I'd probably say that's like the biggest one we've looked at so far that's just gotten us killed, and then therefore our survivability is looking a bit low as well, kind of because of that. So survivability we can maybe tie into that category, and then yep, that means that one's probably going at like a medium high. For now, possibly a high to end it off, but that's where we're going to keep everything for now. Real quick, let's talk about survivability. Did we talk about survivability last time? Because I do not see that anywhere on the notes that I gave you.
I doubt it.
Doubt it? You said you
Uh,
doubt it, right?
yeah, I
Okay.
doubt that we actually did.
So then let's just go over that real quick. So just the importance of survivability and why we want to make sure we're focusing on it so much. First off, puts us at a disadvantage. We already talked about how to tell whether or not a fight is won or lost, right? We discussed this. When you die, you're putting your team at a disadvantage and or just losing the fight because of our death, right? And we lose our impact, which means that when we're dying, that's gonna be real bad because we're basically that's our impact on losing the fight, right? On top of that, every time we die, it's 10 seconds of respawn time and 10 seconds of walkback time, which is roughly 20 seconds of death. Now, we have died a bunch so far. We've died, and we also skipped half the game here, but sorry, not half the game, but we skipped a little bit as well. But we died this time. We died like we died like 3 times on defense, right? We just dying a lot, and it's also particularly at the beginning of fights when we're dying. So just keep in mind, let's say it's a 13-minute game. Let's just throw out a number and just say we died 10 times this game. That means that we are not participating or sorry, like, what was it, 9 times is 3 minutes, I believe, right? 20 seconds times 3, right, would be roughly 3 minutes per death, right? Which is a pretty, or not per death, sorry, in total, right, for the entire game, which is a pretty insane number to think about, right? Because that's in that 3 minutes, that's like 2 ultimates you could have had, tons of damage, tons of kills we could have gotten, not putting your team at a disadvantage. In fact, you staying alive is going to be keeping it neutral and or putting you at an active advantage, because then we can actually carry and do things. So we want to make sure we're staying alive so that we can participate and do things. And when we're dying a lot, especially at the very beginning of fights, which has been the case for 3 fights in a row, or at least we're the second person to die, which is almost just as bad, right? Means that we want to make sure we're staying alive and focusing on our survivability, because we died a lot, right? And in bad situations as well, right? Just keep in mind, right? I think we talked about this briefly, but dying first is worse than dying last, because if you're dying last, that means you probably already lost the fight by that point, right? But dying first means that you're probably the reason why you're losing the fight,
Greetings.
right? Because we die, we lose our impact, we lose the fight.
Get back in the fight. Group up with me.
Like,
Right
notice.
there, I was trying to peel for my sports.
Notice the flicking here with the shurikens, right? We're going here, we flick up top left, and we're looking straight at him, and we look up. Oh, sorry, I guess you saw that, like, that one time. I think it was 1 or 2 shots there that we did it with, but it's just we just do unnecessary flicks. So first flick goes straight into the floor, right? We're looking straight at him, we flick up to the top left, right? So you just see how flicking can be unnecessary. So I think, did we talk in excess about flicking last time? Like, we go into depth on that?
We didn't go into depth, but I
Depth on it.
understand why I should really flick as much.
Yeah. So flicking, just because there are times where you should be flicking, and I just want to discuss when you should be versus when you shouldn't be. Flicking is essentially, like, just by definition, flicking is anytime your crosshair has to travel a long distance very fast. So when flicking is necessary is when, for example, you have a fast moving target. So let's say, like, there's a tracer who's blinking around you. If she just goes from the front of us to behind us, we're gonna have to do a really fast flick behind us. If same thing with monkey, if he jumps, right, we might have to flick to hit him. Now, you can also flick if someone sneaks up behind you. So tracer, just crouching up and sneaking up behind you, might need to flick around real quick. Or if somebody just appeared on our screen, so let's say we're looking like, I don't know, top right now, and then all of a sudden Hog comes bottom left, we might need to flick from top right to bottom left real quick. All right, so those are all situations where flicking is necessary because our crosshairs to travel really fast. But when we're already staring at a big old monkey who's moving pretty slowly and is pretty chunky, us flicking is going to do more harm than good, because it means that we're going from being on top of him to being off of him. It's just being very inconsistent. So instead, when we're on top of him, we probably just want to keep our aim smooth and land just on target, right, rather than doing unnecessary flicks, and that's going to make our shots easier to land. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think me flicking so much might just be because I have a pretty high sense. I play on
Mm.
3200 DPI with 4.42
Okay.
in sense in game.
3200. Wait, sorry. One more time.
3200 DPI
Mhm.
with a 4.42 in game sense.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah,
an average around
that's I think it's
1200.
yeah, so that's 14,000 EDPI, which is that is a pretty high DPI for reference. That was
Yeah.
14,000, whereas mine it would be 800 by 4.5, which would be 3,600. So yours would be, like what, like 4 times more than mine, right? Or
Close
roughly.
to 5.
Yeah. So I would probably recommend, especially because you play some characters that are decently aim intensive. So you play, just from the ones I've seen you play Genji, Tracer, McCree, Ashe, right? When you're
Yeah.
playing characters that require you to hit headshots, usually I would recommend going for a lower sensitivity, as and that's like the general consensus among professional players, is that lower is going to allow you to be more accurate with how you're shooting. Now, that's not to say that, like, it's slightly preference based, because there are players, there's a pro players out there who do have high sensitivities, such as, Pine, who used to be on I don't know if he still is, I don't think he is, but he used to be on the Dallas Fuel for the Overwatch League. He had a super high sensitivity and played hit scan. It is possible, but it's also just probably not what the majority of people would, I guess, give advice on, right? They probably would not tell you to have a super high sensitivity. Usually you're going to want a lower sensitivity. So you can mess around with that if you want to. What size mouse pad do you have? Do you have like a large one
Uh,
or a small one?
I would say I have a pretty medium.
Pretty medium. Okay, so you might need a slightly larger one if you're wanting to lower it, or if you just want to lower it a little bit, then that might work as well. And then but if you lower it down a whole bunch, then you'd need to might need to get a larger one for it to be for your arm to be able to move around a lot more. But yeah, having a larger sensitivity has both in-game effects, but then also on top of that, it can also give you like health benefits. Like it stops the development of like carpal tunnel, if you're familiar with that, what that is.
I
Um,
have no idea what that is.
oh, it's basically just wrist pain. Like getting, I don't how to describe it really fast. It's like
I can search
yeah.
it up afterwards.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just you can develop that from wrist aiming, and I actually almost got that back when I was younger, because I used to have a really high sensitivity. But in any case, yeah, just real quick, I'll link you up with a video that you can look at for finding a new sensitivity if you're interested in that. Like I said, it's slightly preference based, but that's just my recommendation.
You might have linked me that video already, if it's the one by Blizzard Guides.
Oh, okay, yeah, because you asked me that recently, didn't you? You said, "How do I find a good sense of widow?" Yeah, okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
that is the video I sent you. I don't know if you took a look at that or not, but
Yeah, I did. I
yeah.
actually lowered my sense
Mm.
with 2k DPI
Mhm.
slowly over
Yep.
the past week.
So yep, you might want to go even further, and it might take you some time to get used to. Just keep that in mind, right? But it is, it might take you a couple days before you get comfortable with it. But I probably would recommend it, and it is going to allow you to be more accurate, and not be accidentally adjusting off of people.
Yeah, it's just that I always want to be able to do at least 180 with just one flick move.
Mm.
So that's about the lowest I can go with still doing a 180 with just one flick.
Yeah, so I mean,
Really
I can
great.
do with my current sensitivity, I can do a 360, like on my mouse pad, I can do a full 360 with one all the way across my mouse pad, right? So I can go left to right across my mouse pad and do a 360, which is roughly, that's what people will tell you is like kind of roughly the area in which you want to be around, so you want to be able to do that. So if you're so low that you can only do a 180, that might be a problem, right? That's where you might want a larger mouse pad if you're only able to do that, to work with. But you definitely still want to lower it a little bit more, so that you can be more precise, while also able to still do a full 360. Okay, right clicking from pretty far away again, looking for our ultimate here. We don't currently have anything to combo it with, so we're just gonna have to use a try. Okay. So monkey's over here. Everyone else is over here. Okay. So I guess yeah, we're not in any position to go in and focus point on our own. So taking out monkey probably is the best idea here.
I thought I could deflect the hook there.
Yeah. Okay, watch your teammates, right? Awareness, paying attention to whether or not you won or lost a fight. Here, currently, they have close spawns, as we discussed, as an additional advantage. They also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, and we currently have 2 people and Ball, who's like 1 HP. So this is just a situation where this is a lost fight, and we should just group up and wait for people to come back. But we are pretty far forwards, which is potentially going to get us killed, and it does. Oh, does now. Okay, right. And then that means that now we're staggering even further, right? You're familiar with the term staggering, right?
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure we're not doing that again, touching into survivability, touching into awareness, touching into being out of very, very far out of position because we're so far forwards. We want to just make sure that when we, and just as a reminder, because we said this last time, when you have lost a fight, that we are backing all the way up, all the way back, all the way back to your team, all the way back to spawn, if you can, and if you can't, then we just let them kill us. In the situation, you very much could have backed up, and we didn't, right? Which just ended up staggering us further.
Yeah, I was just stressed about having so little time, so I thought about jumping up, but then I thought that would have been bad.
35 seconds is plenty of time, right? 35 seconds is enough time for us to, like, think about it this way, right? We just, it takes you 20 seconds to respawn and walk back to the point. Here we die with 20 seconds, or with like 23 seconds left, and then let's see how long it takes us to get back to point. All right, it takes us, like, we have 10 seconds left, right? So that means that roughly to get to point after dying, we needed like 25 seconds, right? 26 seconds roughly, right? That's how long we need to just fully get back, which means that 35 seconds is plenty of time to do a full team regroup, which means that we don't need to rush in and, do anything rash, because us going in and doing something rash actually ends up getting us killed and staggers us further. Okay. Alright, so there we got booped. Okay, very nice. Okay, do your best to immediately get out of his range. Don't try to stay within his range, right? You can outrange Monkey as Genji, right? You can get far enough away from him that he cannot damage you and you can damage him. So let's just say, for example, we just do this, okay? Now you're out of range of Monkey, but he is within range of you, so we can just do free damage to him without us taking any damage. So here we have multiple options. We currently have a dash available, right? We can just dash if we need time. If we're panicking, right? Like, let's just say Monkey jumps on us and we don't have time to think, we can just dash up real quick, right? This gives us time to think. We can just land here, land here, land up here, right? A bunch of different options. We can, if we have time to think, we can decide to dash through him and get over to Ball, or dash this way, or there's a dragon there, so maybe we can dash this way and climb up. We can dash this way, right? We have a bunch of different options, just anywhere that's not on top of the monkey, but instead we attempt to go the damage route and try to out damage him and go and just we dash through him, which isn't gonna work. It's just we don't want to do that because it's just gonna get us killed. When Genji is full HP and when Monkey is full HP, if you guys are on equal footing and on top of each other, Monkey wins, right? There's ways to out duel him, like you can take him from a range. You can use health packs. You can use your teammates to your advantage, right? You can go in when you have an advantage when he has a disadvantage. But if you're just one-on-one and you're standing on top of him, he's gonna win that, right? Just no questions asked, right? There's the only way you win that is if you have another advantage, like you have another teammate shooting at him. But in that situation, just the best move would have just been to get away from him. Right, now I think that this is gonna just end up being lost. I think we're just, yeah, there's 20 seconds left. That's just lost. So yep, that's pretty much it. So we have like 3 more minutes roughly until we get to the. I guess never mind. I get you notes, so we'll just do a pretty short review. And go over the main points there. So we have a couple more minutes. We can go over another one. Do you have another replay code we could go over?
I doubt it.
Oh,
Or like I have one, but okay, yeah, we have 10 minutes.
yeah, no.
Okay,
Well,
are you ready?
for the last 5 minutes, we'll just be doing the main, going over the main points and then wrapping up the session.
Okay.
So it just needs to be for a couple minutes here.
Okay. Well, SYJYFX.
All right.
Now traveling to Busan. Ready for battle.
And this is just a Genji game. We can probably skip to like half, most likely, for it to actually begin.
Okay. Like what, the second round?
Yeah, that should be good.
All right.
その程度か Enemies in our orbit. Activating the barrier.
Okay, now we're doing the opposite, and we're left clicking within ranges where we probably shouldn't. Like this shooting at the shield, you know, you're just gonna be able to get fit 3 shurikens into that just fine. And then yet we do it twice, and then here we're right clicking, which is good, and then we swap back to left click when there's a shield, and we keep left click into it. Right, it's just inefficient. Right click's gonna be faster. Go for right click whenever it's possible, just because right click's going to be outputting damage at a faster rate. Currently, like when we know that they have a Widowmaker, that probably should have been our job to try to go and hunt her down, right? Last time I think we did discuss this because I saw it in the notes where we talked about target priority, right? We just briefly talked about that, right? So we know tanks aren't what we want to spend a ton of time focusing. Instead, we try to focus the backline. Widowmaker is a super easy target for Genji to to kill in comparison to just a Reinhardt and a Monkey. So might not want to just be sitting on top of them. Instead, we can go and hunt down the Widowmaker, which is what our McCree did, right? Which we could have gone and done there, right? Right clicking at way too far of a distance.
I am ready.
Yes, the side thing. I didn't, or like I tend to prioritize the tanks because I watched a lot of Necros for a bit before, like 2 months ago, and he went over that that Genji is basically only good with blade, and that tanks are better to prioritize. I guess that's wrong to like. It's mainly like Genji is mainly good with only the blade, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's like if you're looking at it objectively, right? Genji's the biggest part of his kit is his blade, and that's the biggest part that you're going to get value out of. Though that's not the only part that we should be looking to get value out of, because if we're only looking to do things with blade, like if you go and look at Necros's gameplay, right? Count how many like kills he gets out of like non-blade versus how many kills he gets while in blade. And I'd probably say it's not going to be that he has 0 kills outside of his blade. So if we're playing through our gameplay and we have only kills with our blade and nothing else, then that means that we're probably not operating correctly. And, we're probably going to be getting a higher amount of kills, higher amount of damage output when we're going to where we're actually prioritizing the right things. And that's not to say that we never spam at tanks. Like in that situation, I'd probably say if it was just the Reinhardt and the Monk, like if they didn't have a Widowmaker that we could hunt down, then honestly I'd say just stay on the front line, because then we can just deflect a Fire Strike back through them and get easy Fire Strike damage. But the fact that they have a Widowmaker means that Widowmaker is probably going to be a pretty easy target we could go for, and then that's an easy pick we can acquire, right? So honestly, in that situation, it's just, again, team composition dictates play style, and the fact that they have a Widowmaker means that we probably want to go for her, because out of everyone on our team, like we can look at our team real quick, is it honest? It's not Honest's job to get a Widow. It's not Sigma's job to get a Widow. Not Kree's job to get a Widow. It's not Zen's. Zen and Sigma can some of these guys can contest her a little bit. Like Sigma can shield her. Zen can right click her. Diva can dive her a little bit. McCree can shoot at her. But Genji honestly probably has the best kit to be able to go hunt her down. So we can just go hunt her down real quick, get her out of the way, and then go for something else, right? Alright. We watched that for half a second. Here it looks like we're getting aggressive when we only have 90 HP, so be careful about going aggressive and dashing in aggressively when we only have half health. Watch your health bar. Again, that's feeding into awareness, paying attention to it, so we're not going in and getting super aggressive when we don't have health. Alright, now let's exit out here because we're going to go over the main points and then wrap up the session from there. So number 1 is going to be awareness and survivability. We talked a lot about both of those, right? Paying attention to our health bar, paying attention to the enemy's health bars, paying attention to where's my team, where's the enemy team, paying attention to team compositions. What are they running? What is my team running? How does that affect my gameplay? Paying attention to the kill feed. When are we winning, losing fights? Paying attention to the other things that affect fights, not just the kill feed. So which team has more health? Which team has better positioning? More ultimates, right? Just all of that stuff, right? A lot of different stuff that goes into it. Audio awareness, paying attention to where the tracer who's flanking us, right? So she can't get on top of us. Bunch of different things like that got us killed a ton. To make sure we're focusing on survivability as well, so that we're not dying, and then therefore we can get a bunch of value, right? Moving on, number 2 is going to be our let's see, probably our mechanics. I would put in number 2. We just, a lot of different things. Right click versus left click at the right distances. That one we messed up a lot, which meant that we just are a lot less efficient with our mechanics, right? Make sure we're aiming head level, even when we're jumping around. Make sure we're not aiming down a lot. Make sure we're not going for unnecessary flicks. Change your sensitivity and lower it a little bit is my recommendation, though feel free to ignore that if you feel like you know more than me, or you just, it's preference based a little bit. So, if you feel like you prefer a higher sensitivity, then, lowering it just a little bit more might be a good idea, or, don't lower it all if you really don't want to. Up to you. Out of everything I say, that's kind of the most up to you and your preferences. Now, besides that's pretty much it. And then also just we talked about target priority briefly, just going for the Widowmaker, right? And then that is it. So that was number 2. Number 3 is going to be our positioning, making sure that we're using cover properly. That got us killed a couple times. Making sure we're using high grounds because we just ignored them a lot of times, especially on a character like Ashe. We want to be just using Coach Gun to take the high grounds and stay there because those give us a bunch of advantages. And then that is it. Moving on to number 4. Number 4 is going to be our ability usage just a couple times. Use our Coach Gun to get the high ground a little bit more. Dynamite I don't have any problems with. Deflect, make sure we're paying attention to when we can use it. And then our dash, just make sure we're using, your left click and right click at the right times. And further away, we're left click dashing, right? And then that is pretty much it for that. And then finally, last one was just ultimate usage. I only saw you use 2 ults, but we used them at pretty good timing, and really the only thing I would say with it is just make sure we're not holding on to it, because it seems as though maybe we did that a couple times where we held on to it, and then besides that, good timing, good usage, didn't have big of a problem with it. But the big thing was that we just didn't get a lot of ults out, and then maybe that was just because we weren't using them very often. So make sure we're looking to use them as often as possible so we get more out, and then that is pretty much it. Do you have any questions about anything we've talked about?
Not really anything we talked about, just
or anything else.
Just a little side thing that I found a little bit funny. Like last time, my mechanics were ranked as the 4th place, I would say, I guess, like in how much it actually needs to improve compared to the other stuff. Compared to now, like the 2nd place.
Yeah,
I blame my Ashe.
Yeah, which is, getting used to a new character is gonna be, gonna be part of that. So yeah, last time mechanics was number 4. I mean, this time there's just like a lot of extra stuff that was kind of added in on top of mechanics. Like it's just a little bit of everything that just made it like a high positioning. But ultimate usage, it looked like ultimate usage was number 2 last time. So ult usage looks like it got a lot better. Ability usage was still still really low. Like honestly, like I said, honestly, ult usage and ability usage are looking like very, very far at the bottom, so they probably don't need a lot of work. They're the ones that you wouldn't want to put too much effort into and just focus on the other ones. So your ultimate usage and ability usage are looking really solid, and then the other three are just the ones that we want to put effort in and work on. Right? So any other questions?
No, that should be it.
All right, so let me end the recording